Welcome everyone to Mailed Fuzz News. I am Peter, that is Connor, and this is your Wednesday edition of the news. And it's a packed day because there's been a couple of days since there was news. Blame Resident Evil 8 for that. But we are here. We have lots of things to talk about. No, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think it says something about the state of the quality of the news today when the headline thing is the trailer for Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
You say that like you don't love the first one.
Because I don't love the first one.
Oh, your face there was priceless. Like a more horrified look than I assume anything in Resident Evil gave you.
I don't know what sort of insinuation that was meant to get across there, but despite the so bad it's good reputation that has been earned by Venom, as someone who loves a lot of so bad they're good movies, I did not feel that from the first Venom movie, so I am not going into Venom 2 with any kind of, anticipation.
When viewed through the lens as a very funny superhero take on a rom-com, Venom is excellent. So, I'm down for Venom 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, the trailer does seem to be leaning into the comedy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the trailer opens with the Venom tentacles, if you whatever you want to call them, making breakfast for Tom Hardy. And then there's jokes about him wanting chocolate at the store and threatening to eat the cashier. So there's a lot of the comedy in there, and then the other half of the trailer's, Woody Harrelson's here and he's going to be Carnage. So let's tease him as a villainous entity. There's the
probably going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle Williams is back, but I mean, in the trailer, it's blinking you'll miss her. There's like one scene of her sitting there with a wine glass, I think, and then it just cuts ahead and does other things instead. I think people who enjoyed the first one, it seems like they've made a movie for the people who did like what they liked about the first one, which I suppose is a credit to them at least understanding why there was any success at all with that first Venom movie. So, fair play.
There's a possibility that them leaning into it intentionally maybe takes away some of the charm if they get it wrong.
You mean like anything Tommy Wiseau's tried to do since The Room?
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't work because he's in the joke, yeah.
Yeah, that's always a danger. But it's not like it's not a hard to understand joke, essentially, for them to go, okay, we understand what worked there. It's kind of easy to get in on and replicate because it can be done. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'm not. So
you're gonna watch it anyway, though, aren't you?
I don't know if I need to be honest.
Oh,
I mean,
next stage.
I mean, Venom 1 I didn't even see. I mean, I saw Venom 1 like months and months later after it. I didn't see that at launch.
I also saw it months later, but that was a period where I wasn't watching like any superhero related films in the cinemas.
Yeah, I felt no desire to see the first one, and I just sort of, when it was easy to just throw it on at home, I did, just to sort of cross it off and see what it was like. I mean, honestly, this being the second one, and like I don't feel any compulsion to watch it. I don't care. Like I feel nothing but apathy for this.
There's no compulsion, that's fair, but for you, but I'm sure eventually, it'll be, when the home release is there, and you just like, why not? So see what people were saying. I know what you're like.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I feel like my patience for certain things that we get too much of, it can wane in time, and I'll also stop paying attention. But so yeah, that's out in September. So look forward to that, I guess, if you really care. We get a trailer today for a very different film. Stillwater is a drama from Spotlight director Tom McCarthy, so this is obviously a very different tone to Venom 2. It's Matt Damon who plays a father who goes to save Chanel number 5 who's went off. That's his daughter, and she's been off to France, but she's been put in prison for a murder she claims she did not commit.
The start of that sounded very suspiciously similar to Taken.
I'll be honest, the way I described it, I kind of wish she was playing Chanel number 5, and this was like Chanel's number 5 father coming to rescue her from prison.
Look, here's the thing. almost everything with those actresses is better if they were playing a Chanel.
Yeah, so obviously this is not an action movie though, just to get away from the Taken comparison there. This is definitely a drama. This is about, I mean, a bit of thriller elements that there's going to play with the idea of Matt Damon in a strange land where everyone's speaking French, and he's trying to like break through the justice system and prove that his daughter's innocent, but he might be crossing a line into some illegal activity eventually. But it definitely looks more like slow-paced drama rather than, he's going to be breaking legs and dodging bullets.
Definitely light thrill elements, but not action. At least not from this trailer.
No.
Barring a very surprising third act.
I mean, and at least in that, I would appreciate that it builds to something like that, rather than just it's an action movie from the start where he's jumping from car to car and whatever. It's
not impossible that it could get there based off of that trailer, but I also wouldn't expect it either.
Because it does feel like it's building up to him crossing a line in some way, and you don't. I mean, that could be him like getting a gun and going guns blazing to find the guy who did the murder.
It could. So. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, this is a funny one because there's a lot about this trailer I kind of hate. Not because I think the movie necessarily looks bad. The movie looks like it could be fine, and it's got a decent director behind it. But more just trailer tropes. Where at one point it comes up saying "in a city of lies," and I'm Paris. I don't know. It's just such a generic. Oh, the city's full of. It's got an underbelly. There's things going on. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, it makes it seem a bit more generic than the film probably actually is.
Yeah,
I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt here a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a very generic thriller thing where you got a mystery or an investigation. And it's going to take you to all the different like corners of the underworld of the city and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, playing up this idea that he's trying to like save his daughter, prove her innocence. But I think the stranger in the strange land element of it's enough to sell the movie. You show him not being able to even communicate. You show him being frustrated and feeling out of place, like, and not in like a comedy fish out of water way by any means. It's just this layer of frustration added on to everything else, along with the drama. I think that's fine. That's your hook.
It's things like these trailer cliches that make me question how much of a thriller it actually is, because without them, I would have assumed it is kind of just a more or less straight drama, which would be perfectly fine. But it is these trailer elements and the way it's framed. It's like, I guess this is a thriller, but I don't know, how much that's the trailer department and how much that's the actual movie.
Yeah. Also, wasn't Paris, it was Marseille, just to correct myself there. It's in the description here. It's Marseille, not Paris.
Still the same.
It's France. So there you go. Knives Out 2 has added Batista to the cast with Daniel Craig. As well as someone else. It was Edward Norton's the other one. I'll be honest. Oh, it's the very next story. Oh, I didn't even mean to put them back to back. I'm glad that happened. That was serendipitous. But some of this news was collected a few days ago. Some of it was collected today. So I didn't realize I had two Knives Out stories. It just so happened they were next to each other. Yeah. So Edward Norton and Batista have both joined the cast of Knives Out 2, which definitely says to me that much like the first one, we're going to go for like a really all-star ensemble cast for him to investigate with. Yeah. So neat. I don't have a problem with any of those names. Part of me kind of hopes that Ana de Armas is back, but I don't know if
I'm really hoping she is. I think her being like the sidekick.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
The ideal scenario, right?
I feel like that's what I'm hoping for, is her to be there as the apprentice, and like, I mean, I don't think he's like going to die at the end of the second one and she'll have to be the main investigator in the third. I think he'll still be there, but I can see it flipping to her taking the lead and him being the apprentice or the shadow in the third one.
It feels more as well like, if you want franchise potential, I mean, if you want this running for years, Craig can do it for a while, don't get me wrong. It's not a particularly, demanding action role. But, at some point he might be like, okay, I'm done with these now. And you've got a ready-made successor there to continue your stories.
Yeah, makes some sense. So cool stuff. I don't know if there's no like descriptions for the characters or anything like that. It's just, I not surprising they're keeping the plot.
I don't think we know secret. Really anything about what the movie is, the plot. Just there is another one and there is a mystery.
There's a mystery. That's what I was going to say. That's the one thing we know for sure. There's a mystery.
I don't even know for sure we know it's a murder.
It doesn't have to be. It could be any number of like dastardly crimes that one could pull off.
Indeed.
So, it can't go too dark though. I feel like because it's fairly light-hearted, like it has to still be some. I mean, not that a murder's not dark, but we accept murder in stories as a thing.
Just a standard. Yeah, that's the baseline. I was thinking more like robbery.
Yeah.
You can go that way.
Yeah. So Knives Out too. It's the thing. Netflix. Blah blah blah. All right. Next up, I'm actually quite intrigued by this next one because I've been a little. I was talking to Tara about this recently when we did Godzilla 2014, which is that Gareth Edwards did that, and I really like monsters as well, and I like his Godzilla movie quite a bit, and I still love his Godzilla movie. It still holds up. And of course, they went to do Rogue One, which I didn't like as much, but I'm not blaming him for that. It's the Star Wars stank. Got to it, but he'd been kind of quiet since then. It almost felt like Star Wars like the experience of Star Wars and having to recut some of it and whatever else he went through just kind of took him off the picture for a little while, off the game board. So I'm delighted to have a news story about his next film here, like what he's doing next. And not only that, we have John David Washington has been cast in it. Obviously you'll know mainly from Tenet, I imagine at this point. So this is neat, and it is a sci-fi film, which is cool. Is
this actually his first film since Rogue One?
I think it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's.
I haven't checked, but that's that was what 2016, I think.
Yeah. So that's 5 years, and that's just now. Never mind, by the time this comes out in a couple of years. So next film is called True Love, and it's for New Regency. It is an original sci-fi project written and directed by Gareth Edwards, which is exciting. Being an original, I mean, I love Godzilla, but like him doing just like his
own thing,
a more indie sci-fi take is very interesting to me. There's not much known about the plot. It's just described as a near future sci-fi story, but you got a good actor, you got a director who's done great things with science fiction before,
both low and high budget.
Yeah, and I expect this will be much bigger budget than Monsters, but I do think this is going to feel probably less blockbustery than his last two.
I would assume so, but I think at least Godzilla proved that to other studios that he can definitely handle a budget, so they'll probably give him a bit more freedom.
Although that said, I mean, Monsters did have the spectacle of the monsters, and I think Godzilla, as well, it did have some blockbuster elements. Actually did a good job of still feeling like a Gareth Edwards thing. It still had his tone, which is something that I think has been sort of missing from every monster movie since then. Even though I've enjoyed most of them to varying degrees, they've missed kind of that special touch that one had. So even if it is a bit more bombastic, I suspect it because it isn't based on a franchise and it isn't a Star Wars movie. Because I don't think it'd be unfair to say, whether you like it or not, and I'm not even going to comment on the quality or joke about it here, but I do think it's fair to say that Rogue One is probably the least Gareth Edwards feeling of the Gareth Edwards movies. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I think that's fair. I think that goes for any director on any kind of big franchise as a rule. I think there's definitely elements of his stuff in Rogue One that you can recognize, because it does feel different to some of the other Star Wars films, for example. But yeah, it's definitely watered down, I guess, compared to just unfiltered his own stuff.
Yeah, it's like taking a gourmet chef and then having him make a Big Mac. The Big Mac's still the Big Mac. Maybe the ingredients are flipped a little bit, so there's a better distribution of them, but it's still a Big Mac.
There's maybe a little bit of a better presentation, but it's still, at the end of the day,
it's still a Big Mac.
It's a Big Mac. Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. So that's called True Love. So I'm just excited that Gareth Edwards is making a sci-fi movie again. It pleases me.
That's exciting.
Next up, Netflix has got Blake Lively to star and produce on a film with Diablo Cody writing. So an Oscar winner, Diablo Cody at that. It's called Lady Killer, and it's based on a Dark Horse comic book series. So, which I actually, this sounds vaguely familiar. So maybe I have heard of it. Maybe I've seen it in a sale or something.
I only know of this because I saw this news a few days ago because of comic book Twitter kind of, talking about it. I don't actually know the story itself.
The plan is for Lively to play Josie Schiller. By all appearances, she is a perfect 1950s housewife. But when she's not catering to the needs of her family, she leads a secret life as a highly trained killer for hire. She really likes the second job, and her husband has no idea. So, just get Ryan Reynolds to play the... just do it properly. Why bother with someone else?
That's fair. Does it say who the comic was by?
It probably does somewhere deep in the text down here. Comic book series was written by Joel Jones and Jimmy S. Rich, with art by Joel Jones and colors by Laura Allred. You know what? I'm going to give Deadline credit. Putting in the colorist in this article is actually quite deep for a stunt like this.
Laura Allred's a very good colorist. Joe, that's quite a good team on that book in general. That makes me interested in reading it anyway.
No, that is a pretty solid team, so I can't fault that. It sounds like potentially fun. I can easily see this feeling generic as well.
It could be just it's Netflix, but I don't know, like Lively.
I think Diablo Cody's attachment is the thing that makes me think it's going to have a sense of style. Like I can see and if nothing else, it gives me a sense of maybe the wittier sort of tone that it might have, and therefore might actually thrive on that. You know, despite the fact that the premise is fine, but the premise is, you know, you've seen one of the spouse or a spy, and the husband or wife doesn't know, and so on and so on. Like, you know, go watch True Lies. It's been done.
It has, yeah. But you know, maybe this will be fun. I hope.
So, yeah. I just thought I was reminded there when Ryan Reynolds was doing his drunk watch of Green Lantern on Twitter a few months ago. I just remember him tweeting something like, "Oh, this Blake Lively seems pretty," or something like that. He was cracking jokes about how, obviously they're married now, but
is that when they met, more or less?
I don't actually know, but I assume it probably was, or thereabouts. So I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Look it up. I don't know, but either way, it was amusing stuff because everyone doesn't know this. He'd never watched it before, so this was him actually watching the full movie for the first time, and basically came to the conclusion that, you know, it's not good, but it's not the travesty that my mind had built up all these years. Was effectively the sentiment. Yeah,
that's probably fair. Like, it's not a good movie, but there's a lot worse out there.
Yeah, which is not high praise, but it's just, you know, it's accurate. Next up, Max Greenfield, Marisol Nichols, and Betsy Brandt, and legendary Mexican screen and television icon Carmen Salinas. I'm glad it told me that because I wouldn't have known who that was. Are boarding Lionsgate's English language remake of French film The Valet. So, and Samara Weaving's already been cast in this. So, interesting cast there. Max Greenfield, just going from the picture here, he's from New Girl.
Okay.
And then Marisol Nichols, I think that's the mum from Riverdale. Veronica's mum.
Which? Oh, okay.
I think that looks like her. That's what I'm seeing anyway. And then Betsy Brandt, of course, I think we know her mainly from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah.
So, a bit of a weird TV plucking here of actors from different shows. But
overall, though, like, no one bad.
Yeah. What's funny, though, is that, I mean, Betsy Brandt, I recognise that name. The other two names, I could never have told you who they were based on the names. It's only because there's pictures, and I'm like, oh, I recognise these faces. So,
yeah.
Richard Wong is directing the film. The original version was written and directed by Francis Weber. Weaving's going to star as Olivia, a movie star who enlists Antonio, a parking valet, to pose as her lover to cover up for a relationship with a married man. As a valet, the hardworking Antonio usually flies under the radar, but his ruse with Olivia thrusts him into the spotlight and brings him to see himself more clearly than ever before. Now, are they going to fall for each other for real by the end of the film? I mean, I can only suspect.
It's a French movie, right? So either it's that, or one of them kills the other. There's no in between.
Okay, well, that's what's happening. So, the valet.
For the record, I don't think either of us have seen this original movie,
no.
We're not spoiling anything.
No. Yes. Is this valet a big thing, like, around where you live? Do people valet?
Rich people, maybe. Joe, I will say I worked at the airport for years, and
yes.
I had a valet service.
Here's the thing that happened. I don't have the original story here. I've got like a response to the original story, but the general gist of it's the important part, which is that NBC cancelled the Golden Globes and they're not airing them next year.
Yeah.
This is like what?
Have you missed this entire thing?
I saw someone mention today that Tom Cruise sent his Golden Globes back. I don't know. Was that like an act of like, yes, we're disowning you, or was he told he had to? So it was a disowning thing. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, take them back, you filth. This is garbage. The Golden Globes were only ever good for Ricky Gervais jokes. Everything else was a mess. Here you go.
Yeah, it was to do with I don't know what committee it was, but it was basically the lack of diversity. I think it was actually a committee about the diversity in the Hollywood Foreign Press Association's membership,
and
it was almost exclusively made up of white men. Still, like the committee of this.
That seems like an odd move.
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you? You'd think that I learned. Basically, everyone was like, "Well, this is bullshit," and yeah, everyone's just like, "Nah, no, we're not dealing with you anymore." Because I think the first things I saw were Netflix and Amazon were like, "No, we're not entering anything. We don't want anything to do with you anymore."
It's funny because the Golden Globes for a long time has always been kind of the joke of the awards season. No one's ever really taken it that seriously. So
the movies they pick as like, this is a comedy. It's always bizarre, isn't it?
So it's kind of funny that like I don't think anyone's going to care about trying to save them or feel that attached to it as an idea. Like it's kind of funny how. Yeah, once there was a reason to not bother, once there was a reason to be mad at them, it's like, well, does anyone care? Is anyone upset by the loss of the Golden Globes, either in the industry or outside of it? As a viewer, is anyone upset? I mean, maybe you're upset you don't get to see Ricky Gervais take the piss out of drunk Americans, celebrities. Like, maybe that's what you're unfortunate about. He'll find another venue for that. Don't worry, that's not going to be lost entirely.
It's called Netflix.
So. Yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning.
I think what is interesting about this to me is, so all this came around, so they were had a list of reforms that they were adopting that people said didn't go far enough, but NBC did endorse the reforms originally. So the fact that then they've kind of gone back on this is kind of, I guess, what makes this the story today.
Yeah. I wonder. Like, how cynical should we be here in the sense that were they completely on board before and they're just trying to save face now by cancelling it? Or is it more just a case of they never really quite understood or got how lacking it was and what the reaction would be to everything? And then once they understood that and saw how it affected everyone, that they made a more noble choice to cancel it. I don't know.
I'm just learning what the actual story was here. Just for context, because I was obviously going from memory. So was it in February they had allegations of ethical lapses due to the fact that it's the entire organization. There's 86 of them who are on the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So they're all journalists. That's the idea, and not a single one of them is black. Out of 86. So that was what, basically when that came out, it was like, okay, this is kind of terrible. So they put out, these are the reforms we're changing, we're putting into place to kind of change this in the future. And then basically everyone was like, no, these are just, I believe the exact phrase was window dressing platitudes from Time's Up, is what they called the reforms. So basically, just like, no, it's just kind of just a lot of nothing. So I get why, everyone's kind of distancing themselves from it. I guess the sad thing is it took I assume most of these companies that are now distancing themselves kind of knew the membership anyway and are only doing this now. It's going to come to light publicly.
Yeah, there you go. Let's move on. We've got a bunch of stuff to get through. Justin Hartley and Gory Rice, Sam Richardson, Zoe Chow, Mary Holland, and Chris Parnell have joined Rebel Wilson in a high school comedy called Senior Year. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Justin Hartley, Rebel Wilson, these people are much older than 17, 18.
Parnell as well. I know him.
Yeah, I know who that is off the top of my head. But so This is about a cheerleader who wakes up after a 20-year coma and returns to high school to try and regain her status and claim the prom queen crown that eluded her. So this is literally a middle-aged person going back to high school to get her. But she's been in a coma, so it's not like she's going back because she's on a whim. Mentally speaking, she has just woken up and she's still, that age.
Which one of them is her? Is that Rebel Wilson?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if it specifies. I don't think it's specified. Yeah, maybe it's. I mean, she was already cast, so
that was why I
assumed
that.
Yeah. So she's probably her. And I see potential for that. She can be. I mean, no, admittedly, this could be completely terrible. The comedy might be atrocious, but there's something. I assume some of the other adults are probably either playing her old high school friends who come to see her, or maybe some of the teachers, for example, as well. Like, it could be any of those. But
I'd suggest a mixture of both of those.
It doesn't say, but I kind of love the idea of Hartley, was her boyfriend in high school, and he comes to see her now she's, awake, and she wants to go to prom, and he begrudgingly has to be like, okay, fine, I'll take you to the high school prom. So...
There's potential in this.
There's potential. It's not DOA. Next up, Universal Pictures has optioned screen rights to The Premonition, a pandemic story, because we all want to talk about that more. A new book by Michael Lewis about several US heroes who tried to sound the alarm in the early days of The Thing. But we could probably say it in YouTube now, but I'm just going to be safe. Eileen.
Yes.
It rhymes with Eileen.
It's a deeper reference for some older content.
Yes. Yes. So just sing the song "Come On, Eileen," and you can say, "Na na, na na." The Thing, the virus. Anyway, the dangers of underestimating the deadly seriousness of the killer virus. Blah 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 blah. So Phil Lord and Chris Miller are going to direct it. Which is an interesting pairing for this, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be a funny, witty thing from the...
No, that has me more intrigued than I was at the start of this story, I'll give you that. I
have to admit, obviously, in the article here, it mentions The Big Short, focusing on a group of financial experts. The idea of the premonition is going to focus on medical experts. So maybe it's going to actually be very educational, but well witty at the same time, about all the sort of warning signs and so on and so on. I have to admit, I don't know if this is something I want to watch right after the pandemic, or possibly still during it, depending on when this comes out.
Yeah, The Big Short was a decade later.
Yes, and I feel like equally 2030, give or take, this is a nice thing to put out. This is, it's a little bit into the history now. We've all moved on. We're all over it at that point.
Yeah.
Then's the time where, okay, we're willing to talk about the lessons we need to learn from it. But right now, there's nothing I want to watch more than something talking about the goddamn pandemic.
Yeah, it's... And I don't know if I want to see it being become... if it is the witty take on it, like The Big Short, feels a little bit lighthearted, given it's still happening, and, thousands of people have died, lost jobs, lives ruined, all that.
I have to sort of trust them that they'll balance that wisely and not just, make light of all those elements, and ultimately there'll be a serious message to take from it, even if it is witty, so that we can sort of understand it better and get the points that it's trying to make and whatever. And it is also important to say that, it's only in development right now. It's just been optioned, so it's at least 2 years away, maybe 3. By then, maybe enough time will have passed that it doesn't feel too close. But that said, I still think a good decade from now would be a better window. Yeah. But, it is what it is. So it's called The Premonition. Next up, Bleecker Street has acquired the US rights to Fran Kran's Mass. That's MASS, just in case it's sometimes just a one-word title. I really need to emphasize what I'm saying. Mass. Made its world premiere at Sundance back in January. It's going to get a theatrical release in the fourth quarter. Years after an unspeakable tragedy tore their lives apart, two sets of parents, Jason Isaacs and Martha Plimpton, Reed Birney and Ann Dowd, some good names in there. Ann Dowd and Jason Isaacs in particular stick out. Agree to talk privately in an attempt to move forward. In Frank Kranz's writing and directorial debut, he examines the journey of grief, anger, acceptance, and coming face to face with the ones who have been left behind. So, yeah, I mean, the idea of like this being two couples who essentially just have a conversation, and the movie kind of revolves around that conversation. I get intrigued by movie pitches like that, because I'm like, oh, what have you got up your sleeve that's going to make that work for 2 hours? And I get excited because I'm like, if you pull this off, I'm going to be very impressed.
I have to imagine they're a lot harder to pitch to a studio as well. Like, on one hand, don't get me wrong, it's like they're a lot cheaper to make, but also it's like, you know, you've still got to get interest. You can't just, you know, go out, you know, anything. I
mean, having actors that, you know, are known is a good start, but you know, it is something that clearly was made independently and has been picked up now for distribution. So, very, very curious. And it is a, you know, yeah, I was going to say it was a directorial debut, but that was the last story I'm thinking of. Or not the last one, the one before.
Did this not say writing and directorial debut?
Oh, it did. Yeah, it was in the second paragraph. That's why I couldn't find it.
Yes.
So, you know, that's cool. And if Frank Kranz is who I think it is, let me just double check here.
The name's definitely familiar.
I think it's an actor. I think I know who this is. I'm just going to confirm it before I make my yeah. So unless it's just someone else with the same name,
which seems unlikely given the people involved here.
Yeah, I would say that yes, you may know Frank Kranz from Dollhouse, which was also from the same creator as the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, also Cabin in the Woods. So that's Frank Kranz. I was like, yeah. I'm sure that's that name. So
yeah, there's a reason it was familiar.
Yeah, I think my mind never put it together right away because it's, you know, he's doing something different. He's not acting here, but so I'm really fascinated to see then how this works out. And he's got some good actors there to work with as a director. So I'm fascinated to see how this works.
And with such a simple premise, good acting is essential in carrying this.
Yeah. What do we think the tragedy is? Because it sounds like something where both, because it says they're both parents, so I assume that both of their children died in something with each other.
I was assuming the same, some sort of accident with both the kids.
Yeah, I suspect that's what it is, but we'll see. So cool. It could be more than that though. I mean, but we'll see. Next up, Warner Bros. Has won a spec auction and will pay over $1 million for Tyler Marcisa's script Stay Frosty. It's got Idris Elba attached to star in it, and Sam Hargrave attached to direct. He did Extraction. That was a Netflix movie, right?
Yeah. I wasn't. I liked it a lot less than everyone else. Some people really love that movie.
After miraculously surviving a bullet to the head, a man has to figure out who wants him dead and why. He needs to stop the assassin while still making it back home in time to spend Christmas with his son. Wait, I thought he said he... Oh, he's okay. For some reason, I assumed he had amnesia, but it was just he didn't know who wanted him dead.
Yeah, I know why you're thinking that. It's because you're like, this sounds very Bourne.
It does so.
And because I was thinking I was going to make that comparison, and then you said, you're like, wait, does he not have amnesia? Well, that's just because you're thinking of Bourne.
Yeah, because I said goes to spend home with his son at Christmas. I'm like, how does he know he has a son? That was the first thought I had in my head, but I never actually said he'd lost his memory. It just said he didn't know who tried to kill him and why. So, so this is like a potential franchise starter for Idris Elba, and it's apparently going to be a concoction of a John Wick style movie with the 80s Christmas action movie like Die Hard or Lethal Weapon, which is an interesting mix of things to throw together and say, hey, we're trying to do like a modern 80s action movie. And I like Idris Elba, so conceptually I'm into it. Most modern action movies don't work for me for whatever reason, but I'm hoping
yeah, I mean, you should probably check out Extraction because it was the direction most people really enjoyed in that movie. I mean, like I said, I thought it was just okay. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I didn't get quite the hype. But, I mean, if you enjoyed that movie, this probably sounds amazing to you.
Yeah, so it's called Stay Frosty. And now that I know it's maybe going for a Christmas setting...
That makes more sense.
You know, that works. But it also has a double meaning because it's like he's a cold and you'll get the bad guy no matter what kind of thing.
Yeah, and you know that's like military lingo, isn't it? You know, stay frosty. You know, like stay alert.
So yeah, I'm okay with him having his middle-aged man disgruntled action hero movie. You know, Idris Elba deserves it.
It's a classic genre, and you know, Idris Elba is definitely capable of it.
Yeah, so very cool. Next up, 20th Century Studios still sounds weird, not saying Fox, but picked up Rosaline, a comedic and revisionist take on Romeo and Juliet starring Caitlin Dever.
I'm in.
I figured you would be. It was at MGM, but then it hit the market. It's been moving around, whatever. But 20th Century Studios, it's just interesting to see them still picking up movies. You know, there was a worry that maybe being under Disney, they wouldn't necessarily get to just go pick things up like this.
It seems they have an independent budget still.
Mm. So very interesting. But anyway, so the script is based on the novel When You Were Mine by Rebecca Searle, and it is a modern twist on the classic tale of Romeo and Juliet. We see the most famous love story ever told through the eyes of Juliet's cousin Rosaline, a sharp but idealistic young woman who happens to be Romeo's recent ex. Was that always canon? Was that in the original?
I definitely remember Rosaline being a thing. I'm sure. You know, there's definitely characters like that in various versions.
Was she his ex though? Is that a new spin?
I do not remember that. Okay. It's been a while.
What begins as an attempt to foil the famous romance and win back her guy becomes a journey of self-discovery as she ultimately works to help to get the star-crossed lovers back together. That sounds a little bit Rosenstein's Guildenstern? The one from is it Hamlet or is it Macbeth? It's like there's the side story that someone did later about two of the minor characters that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. I'm sure that's something like that.
I'm not familiar with this particular...
How do you not know? But this is a thing. There's like a spin-off side story that someone did later. I've never read or seen any of that, but I remember hearing about it. That's what that sounds like to me.
I believe you, but I don't pay attention to every single side thing ever.
I don't know what the words are exactly, so I can't search for it.
That is difficult to Google when you don't know the words, isn't it? It's a horrible thing. It's like when you know enough of a song, but you don't know.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. That's the title.
I have no idea what this is. I've never heard of this before in my life.
Typed in Hamlet spin-off, and that gave it.
Okay.
It's an absurdist extent. This is from Wikipedia. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead is an absurdist existential tragic comedy by Tom Stoppard, first staged at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in 1966. The play expands upon the exploits of two minor characters from Shakespeare's Hamlet, and the main setting is Denmark. This is a thing. They've been doing this for apparently 50 years at this point, so...
I was not questioning its existence, just that I have personally never heard of it.
How do I know something about a Shakespeare thing that you don't? How did this happen?
I don't know. It said Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Maybe they mentioned it somewhere in school in stupid Scotland.
All right, Rosaline, do you want this?
I do, yeah. Sounds fun.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds very much, a little bit, you've seen this rom-com before, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the wrong guy after all. The real person was someone else all along that you overlooked near the start of the movie. It sounds a little bit that, but maybe it'll be solid.
Yeah. All right, moving on then. Amazon has got singer Camila Cabello, and I'm glad it told me that because I've never heard of these.
I know who she is. You've probably heard a couple of her songs.
I mean, you say that about a lot of things, but you're still confirmed I've heard a Taylor Swift song, and I haven't. So
you definitely have.
Nothing that stuck out to my memory.
Fine, but you'll have heard probably Senorita. I know the name will mean nothing to you, but if you heard it, there's a reasonable chance.
Mm-hmm. So Amazon Studios is close to the deal to acquire the worldwide rights to the Kay Cannon-directed musical Cinderella from Sony Pictures. And Camila Cabello is going to be... Is in it?
Yes, I remember seeing it. I don't know if there was a trailer for this or just a poster or something. I saw something about this a few months ago.
It's coming out later this year.
Yeah, so I remember it existing and being surprised that she was starring in it. I was like, huh, okay. But okay, interesting.
Yeah, Cabela plays the title character with a supporting cast that includes Idina Menzel or Manzel. What did John Travolta say that one?
Oh, no one knows because it was stupid.
Do you know what? I only know who this person is because he messed up her name. I would not know who she is if it wasn't for that moment.
I mean, she's a Broadway star.
Sure, but I'm just saying that the reason why I know who she is because he messed up her name. Billy Porter, Nick Galitzine, Minnie Driver, and Pierce Brosnan are all in this thing.
I like most of that cast, to be honest.
Yeah. Cannon wrote the script, and the film is produced by James Corden, who also has a role in the film.
Well, I'm significantly less interested
now. So, yeah. I have nothing to add. I don't care. So, some Cinderella musical, I could, burn it with fire. I want nothing to do with it.
I will probably watch it. She is a perfectly fine singer who tends not to do music I'm not interested in, but she's not. It's not like she's got a bad voice, so I have no idea what she's like as an actress. I don't know if I've ever seen her act in anything before. I don't know if she has acted in much.
Well, her acting career will go a lot like her singing career for me, which is unseen and unheard. So, moving on.
I sense a Patreon goal.
Oh god, no. With Owen Wilson is the next up here.
Oh yeah, just really improving the quality here.
I would rather watch an Owen Wilson movie than Cinderella musical. I'll tell you that right now.
I bet you would. I'm not sure I would, to be honest with you.
Owen Wilson is found his next film. He's going to star in Paramount's Secret Headquarters with Project Power directing duo of Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman directing. Jerry Bruckheimer's producing, which maybe tells you more about the quality, perhaps, than you need to know. The story comes from an original screenplay by Christopher Yost, who he's one of those writers that gets around Hollywood. He worked on The Mandalorian. He also worked on Thor Ragnarok. If that is,
hasn't he wrote a bunch of comics? So I feel like he wrote a bunch of Spider-Man comics at one point a few years ago.
His name does sound familiar in that vein, yeah. So the film is a high-concept family action movie about a kid who discovers the secret headquarters of his world's most powerful superhero hidden beneath his home and must defend it with his group of friends when villains attack.
Please give me back the Cinderella musical. No, not interested in this.
So
one.
It's kind of Spy Kidsy then?
Yeah, but Owen Wilson.
I wasn't saying that as a positive. I've never seen Spy Kids. I don't know.
Surprisingly, neither have I.
I was just basing because I know what it's about, the basic premise of it. So, next up, Alison Brie, Aubrey Plaza, Alessandro Nivola, Molly Shannon, and Lil Ray Howery are set to star in a film called Spin Me Round, an indie comedy directed by Jeff Biena, with a script that Jeff wrote with Alison Brie. So, the Community Parks and Rec crossover that I dreamed of is not entirely happening, but two of the prominent stars of each show are colliding finally. So
I believe as well Jeff Biena is Aubrey Plaza's husband, which I only know this because there was a thing just this past week where presumably when announcing or marketing something about this film, she was just like, yeah, there's my husband. They've been together for years, I assume. But no one knew they were married until this week.
Publicly,
yes.
Yeah, I assume some close family.
I assume that friends and family knew, but I bet the world at large, clearly.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but he wrote the film with Brie, which is really funny, actually. I'm imagining Alison Brie coming over for writing sessions and like Aubrey in another room playing her PlayStation or something, and just like them in the other room with the computer. Yeah, I'll be in the movie, but you can write it. I'm just going to be in here.
You do all the hard work.
I'm going to be in here poning the noobs on Warzone or something.
Plaza play? You think she plays well?
I would think so. She seems like she has more taste than that. She's playing some dignified video game. She's playing some Miss Pac-Man or something. But so here's the premise. Brie plays the manager of the Bakersfield, California franchise of the Italian chain eatery Tuscan Grill. Just say a goddamn restaurant. Like that was a lot of words to basically say she runs a restaurant. That was a lot of words to just be she runs a restaurant.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah, she wins an all expenses paid trip to the company's gorgeous institute outside of Florence, Italy, and the chance to meet the restaurant chain's wealthy and charismatic owner, played by Nivola. Along with the mismatched group of local American franchise managers, Amber finds a far different adventure than the romantic fantasy she had imagined. Okay. It's worth mentioning this is also being produced by the Duplass brothers, and given the fact that it's like an indie sort of drama comedy, that's very in the wheelhouse of some of their things.
It is, yeah. That gives me a bit more to go on as well, like, with tone and.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued. This could be all right.
This is the sort of thing where I don't even really care about the premise. You're just telling me potentially some good dialogue and a bunch of good actors are going to sit around and be vaguely amusing for some time is kind of what I get from this. But yeah, we'll see. So Bree is the lead. It doesn't really mention where a lot of the other cast, including Plaza, but I assume maybe the other managers or whoever.
Yeah, the other franchise managers would be my assumption.
So there you go. Next up, Paramount is moving the Anton Fuqua directed sci-fi thriller Infinite, which stars Mark Wahlberg. It's going to be coming out in Paramount Plus in June. It was meant to be a theatrical release, but it is shifted.
Interesting.
So we're in this kind of. I think we're definitely in the phase of things going back to theaters, but clearly, early to midsummer, we're still seeing some stuff just be this instead.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about the Venom trailer at the start, and that was kind of, it's heavily leaning on, opens wide exclusively in theaters.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of this is, we're not sure about the state of theaters still in June, and how much is they want Paramount Plus content to try and draw in some subscribers, because they haven't got as much as some of the other services.
What's interesting is this was originally meant to come out in September, and it's now coming out in June instead on Paramount Plus. But I do wonder if that's because the competition in September has ramped up, because so many studios are now like scheduling all their movies for the back half of the year, that this relatively little film, even though it's Mark Wahlberg, it's like, oh, this will probably just be buried at that time, so we're just going to put it out in the summer over the streaming service.
And it might be something for them, because it's big enough that it might draw attention to the service and get a few subscribers, but obviously too small to compete in the likely very crowded theatrical space.
Yeah, so it's based on a book, but the premise follows Evan Macaulay, played by Wahlberg, a guy who is haunted daily by skills he has never learned and the memories of places he's never visited. Self-medicated and on the brink of a mental breakdown, he is rescued by a secret group whose members call themselves Infinites. They reveal to him that his memories are real and they're from multiple past lives. Sounds like a slightly different spin on Old Guard. Instead of just being immortal, it's no more reincarnation, but otherwise it sounds similar.
I can see that. I think I'd be a lot more interested in this if it wasn't Wahlberg.
I could say that about every single thing that Mark Wahlberg has ever been in.
No, that's true, but there are a lot of Mark Wahlberg things that objectively I would be more interested in if it wasn't him. But a lot of his projects, even if it was someone else, I probably still wouldn't be interested. Whereas if you gave me this premise with someone I actually liked, I'd probably be like, okay, yeah, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. All right, there you go. That is the movie section wrapped up.
Oh boy.
So right, TV now. I told you it was a meeting news. Now there's actually a teaser trailer here, which I didn't bother making you watch, because first of all, I wasn't sure if you were going to say, I don't want to watch it because it's for season 4, but it's just a little teaser anyway, so I'll just tell you what happens in it.
But what shows it for, in case I want to shut you up?
It's Stranger Things, but it's not, like, this doesn't seem to be something that's going to be in the show. This feels like it's just a little tease to whet our appetites. And they've done this in the past with teasers, where it's not been something that's actually in the show. We see a bunch of like kids who all have their heads shaved, like playing in like a sort of clinical looking room, and then the whole point of this is to tease that Brenner, the scientist, like he's going to be back in season 4. That's the whole point of this, because we see like the back of him walking into the room, and they all call him Pop Up or Papa or whatever Eleven used to call him. And the camera like sort of spins around and like lands on a door that has the number 11 on it, and it just sort of, the music ramps up, and that's your tease. That's all it is. It's just like, hey, Stranger Things 4 is coming, and
it's real.
One of the elements, because we had a teaser like ages ago with Hopper, like working.
We did, didn't we? That was a long time ago.
It was, and I wonder, the pandemic probably delayed things a bit in between the two teasers. there was things a few weeks ago. They did say that there's a chance that it might not be this year in an interview or something like that. I actually don't believe that. I do still very much think that this is hitting this year. It's been long enough since season 3 for a start that I genuinely think that they're going to be either aiming for Christmas or something around the end of the year.
Do you think part of them saying that is so that it lowers that expectation so that when they go, oh, and it's coming next month, sort of thing?
Possibly, yeah. It was the way it was said. It wasn't like as it wasn't like
definitive.
It wasn't like production got heavily delayed by the pandemic and therefore there's no way it's coming out till next year. It was more like, we should warn you. There's a chance that it might not be this year, but I don't know. It felt like I felt lies. I felt the lies. I don't know if I believe you right now. This feels like a bit of doubt, so that we're all going to feel really relieved and happy when you announce the Christmas date or something.
No, I get that. There's a rule from Doctor Who from a few years ago when Stephen Moffat was running the show, which was Moffat lies, and it kind of, I think it translates to kind of showrunners across the board. They will lie in order to preserve the integrity of the show, or surprises, and that extends to release dates, things like that. Like, kind of never really trust anything the showrunner says about the show, because they've got to give you, obviously they've got to give you enough to get you interested, but they don't want to ruin anything. They want you to be as surprised as you can.
Just to give you a bit of timeline here for this, that first teaser was on Valentine's Day last year. That's how long ago that teaser was. And that was there to announce they'd started production. They paused the production a month later.
I was going to say, it can't have been that long.
Because of the pandemic. And then they started back up in September. So I still think that this can come out.
It's very possible. It depends. Again, I believe that just because of the way, like you say, it was very vague with what they were saying before. Admittedly, yes, they started up in September, but did they manage to go continuously, or did they have a lot of shutting down off and on, like a lot of other productions?
What I'm wondering is like, I mean, they're past the major growth spurt, but these kids are still aging quite quickly. Mm-hmm. So I'm really wondering if there's going to be a noticeable thing, or did they have to reshoot some of the early stuff because the kids had aged enough in the...
Well, it would have been, a good 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months. And to be fair, I do think the major growths did happen between season 2 and 3. I think when we came out of season 3, it was clear, okay, they've all just had their, 13, 14, like, spurt or whatever,
But they're still at the point where 7 months could be drastic.
Yeah. That said, though, like, when you see them in, like, other things, and it's mainly Millie Bobby Brown, because she's been in a few movies recently, yes. She does feel older. When I saw Godzilla vs. Kong, which is the newest thing that I've seen her in, I mean, she's not a teenager, she's not like an adult, but I remember, like, the first time it cut to her in her school, like, when you see her at the start of the movie, the first thought I had, damn, she's like 40 now. Like, I was just joking, but it was like, she looks so much older than the last time I saw her in Stranger Things.
I do wonder if they have perhaps compensated for that, and there is a bit of maybe they skip a year of the school, and we're a year later to compensate for that, because like I say, they are all they delayed. Obviously, the film between season 3 and 4, even before the delay, was reasonable. Then you add on another 6 or 7 months. Yeah.
Because it was 83, 84, and 85. It wouldn't surprise me if this jumps at least to 87, just to give it that extra year, just to make it feel like, okay, that explains why there's more of a difference.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And I don't think they're going to do, 7, 8 seasons to, like, do every rest of the year, so they can afford to skip one, is what I'm saying.
As far as I'm aware, it was always planned to be 4 to 6 seasons anyway. That was kind of always been what's been kind of thrown around. So,
that's cool. Although part of me wonders, like, if they age enough to do a 90 season. They're like a season set in like 1992 or something like that. The last season. When they're all in their early 20s. Because by the time they shoot it, they will be.
It will be at this rate, yeah.
So, there you go. So Stranger Things 4 is coming. And there's no specific news with this, but I do wonder, just to further speculate about the intention of when this is going to come out. Because that first teaser was like, essentially like a treat to go with the announcement, we were shooting this now, we are in production, and obviously I think they've probably finished production by now anyway, regardless. So I think, if anything, I would take this teaser as it's coming this year teaser, and they're not saying that, but that, to me, that's what I'm reading from it.
No, I agree. The fact that they felt confident enough to release this feels more like production's wrapped almost sort of teaser. Like, and obviously they're not saying that, but that's almost like the intention is like, okay, no, this is all shot now.
Yes. So I will go on the record as saying I think Stranger Things 4 is hitting this year. Now, it may be right at the end. It might literally be like Christmas Day. I can see them pulling that stunt.
I can see it being like Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Especially if it's Christmas themed. And, hey, I'll review the shit out of Stranger Things 4 over Christmas. I ain't got no qualms about that.
Me too.
I actually plan to rewatch the first 3 seasons before season 4 because
I feel like I need to because it will have been like literal years at that point.
I regretted not doing the first 2 when we watched 3, not because I couldn't remember things, but because it's just such a fun show and it's relatively quite short, so it's really easy to do. And after season 3 was so good and was probably is my favorite season, and now with some time I can kind of comfortably say that I really want to watch it again. So I think I'm going to do like a rewatch before season 4 hits.
Do I skip that terrible episode in season 2?
The sad part is you probably can, and it won't affect anything.
But also, we both know what I'm like. I'm not going to skip it. As much as I dislike it, I'm going to sit there and suffer.
So, moving on to some other TV stuff. Let's try and do some of these a little bit quickly. I can mention this very, very in passing. Grey's Anatomy has been renewed for season 18, with some classic cast members returning. And Station 19, which you might not remember, is actually a spin-off of Grey's Anatomy. It's the firefighter spin-off of Grey's Anatomy.
Take your word for it.
Because now we've got the Chicago universe, where it's Chicago PD, Chicago MD, Chicago
Fire,
or whatever they're called. They're so this is the same sort of thing where they like, I don't know if they're ever going to do a cop version where they do like, I don't know what you call it. That's the thing, they couldn't call it like Grey's Fire, although they should have done. No, Grey's Inferno. That's what you call the fireman spin-off of Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Inferno. God damn it. Anyway, so that's been renewed for season 5. So that's 5 seasons in, and Grey's Anatomy's at 18 seasons in. So
I have nothing to add to this. I've never watched a single episode of either.
Nor do I. On the go. Just quickly as well, Ali Wong has joined Paper Girls, the Amazon show based on the Brian K. Vaughan book. Not much to add, just that casting still going on.
Chugging along.
Show's ramping up. Next up, FXX, to say that properly, has picked up a series called Little Demon, a half-hour animated comedy pilot starring Danny DeVito, his daughter Lucy DeVito, and Aubrey Plaza. There's Aubrey Plaza again for the second time in this news. So
this is what she was doing while her husband was writing.
There you go. She was in like a little sound booth, because maybe they're recording all the audio for this remotely because of the pandemic. They're just like, everyone buy a sound booth so you can record your audio at home.
I feel like a lot of actors as well, especially ones that do regular voice work, probably already have one.
Oh, they definitely do. People who do a lot of video game and animated voice work absolutely do. I'm not sure if Aubrey Plaza is someone who I'd expect to have one, though, given...
I don't know. I feel like she does a fair amount of animated little bits here or there, like just enough that I'm like, it's possible.
Because the truth is it doesn't take... I mean, it's a little bit of money to spend on it, but once you've got a little sound room, a decent mic, you can record audio on your own. Like, you don't need to be in a studio for it.
Not at all. So
that's just where we are with tech at this point. It's relatively easy. And at least if they send you a message, but it's shit, you have to do it again because there's like a defect, and it's like, well, I've got my booth here. I don't have to go anywhere. I'll just do it again. So it's not the end of the world. So yeah, there's a description here. Here we go. So, Little Demon, 13 years after being impregnated by the devil, played by Danny DeVito, which is the best news ever, a reluctant mother, Plaza, and her Antichrist daughter, played by Lucy DeVito. So I
love this already.
Attempt to live an ordinary life in Delaware. Oh, even Delaware is a great detail. Delaware, the most dull-sounding place on the planet. But are constantly thwarted by monstrous forces, including Satan, who yearns for custody of his daughter's soul.
Oh, I love this.
Also, is it worth mentioning that Dan Harmon's executive producing?
That probably helps. I mean, it's executive producing, but
yeah. So there's a lot of good names here. A lot of good names to get on board.
I feel like this would be even funnier if it was like a live action thing.
So that I want DeVito in the makeup, the red makeup, and the.
He'd do it.
Oh, he would do it. He absolutely do it. Basically, you know in that Always Sunny when he plays the troll.
Yes.
Just that, but with red, some horns. There you go.
Yeah.
You got to pay the troll toll to get in that boy's hole. And that would probably sound really dark. It's still dark if you've seen it. Always Sunny, but
did you almost say Arrested Development?
I almost said Arrested Development. Because to be fair, it does sound like the sort of accidental thing that Tobias might say. So, because that's how that character's whole shtick is that he accidentally says innuendo stuff constantly.
That's fair.
Yeah. So anyway, next, we all love Mark Millar here, don't we? The comic book writer, of course. No, we don't. No, that's the reaction I was looking for. So, Mark Millar's The Magic Order is on course at Netflix for a series, and of course, Jupiter's Legacy just launched. Look for that in the Patreon pilot vote next month.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you if we were bothering with that.
I was almost going to review the first episode on my own on Friday, and then I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score and went, "No, that's a pilot vote. that's not what I'm going to do." But by default,
like I had someone at work telling me I should watch it, and now I'm questioning their taste.
I've heard stories of bad wigs and bad acting, so we'll see how that goes. But so patrons at $10 and up can vote for that next month.
Why do you do this to us?
Because the other ones might be more compelling. The current pilot vote for the $10 and up patrons is currently on, by the way. So if you're a patron, you've got a couple of days left to go and vote. So go do that if you haven't. All right. So one day before the intergenerational superhero series launches on the streamer, they're talking about Jupiter's Legacy.
Yeah.
Miller put up a blog post talking about the Magic Order. And also the animated Super Crooks, which is coming next month. So, but among all this, he also revealed that he has been working on a new live-action 6-episode spy series. And he was teasing, the writer is someone I've been a massive fan for 2 decades, and was the only person I approached. This has the potential to be one of the biggest franchises I've ever created. I'm so excited. I hope you will. So, he's teasing something else.
Okay. So
yeah.
is this an announcement that the Magic Order is happening? Did we already know this? I don't know quite what that was all about there.
Yeah, well, the Magic Order was already in development at Netflix, and I guess there was a hitch because there was news that it's back on track. So
probably some production problems. Yeah.
So it's referring to another article they posted about the Magic Order. But the news here is that he's teasing a 6-episode spy series, which he thinks is going to be the biggest franchise that he's ever.
Which I think, interestingly, out of this news story, sounds like it's not something adapted from one of his comics. Doesn't sound like it the way he's talking about it there.
No, unless he just approached a writer to adapt it.
Possible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It didn't sound like that because I mean, his body of work is. Don't get me wrong, he's written a fair amount, but it's not that huge that people wouldn't go, spy series, and just, narrow it down to at most a handful of things that we could say, it'll be this.
Yeah, there's also a little footnote here saying that Miller's Prodigy comic book from 2018 is close to becoming a movie, with the writers from the Eternals on board to adapt it. So he's got a bunch of stuff at Netflix in the works, and I mean, the funny thing is that I can't write off his material because when Matthew Vaughn's the one adapting it, it tends to turn into gold. And I love Kick-Ass. I really enjoy the Kingsman movies, but
I think my concern is that Netflix own Millarworld now.
Yes.
So I assume he's a lot more involved, and there are a lot more, presumably significantly more faithful adaptations than Kingsman or the first Kick-Ass. I assumed that they lean more into his original intention, which makes me a lot less interested in most of them.
Yeah. I'm not particularly hopeful without the other names that have made his work for me. But it's a thing, it's happening. I had to mention the 10 different projects that he's got in the works at Netflix. Moving on. So South by Southwest horror film The Boy. The duo behind The Boy, Craig McNeil and Clay Chapman. And they're not the director, so I assume they're the writers of The Boy. Are teaming up with, and this is bizarre. So these two names, and it specifically mentions The Boy as what they're from. This is what they're known for, and then says they're teaming up with Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. I mean, it's more their production company. I think it's their thing. It's just Nolan and Joy's company that's producing it.
This might be the most mild Fuzz news to ever happen.
But they're developing a horror series at Amazon. It's called Unknown. It's a psychological horror anthology series that plunges into the corners of the American landscape, probing the intersection of folklore and our bloody history of true crime. The first season, implying that it's going to be like full season stories, anthology rather than episode by episode, is centered around an estranged brother and sister who return to the Texas killing fields only to encounter a dark spirit that inhabits the region from their childhood. I like the premise of what this show is. The writers of The Boy being behind it obviously kills my enthusiasm a touch.
Why? You love that movie. I see what happens. I see what that Screams After Midnight Twitter account puts out.
Shut your hole, you filthy ginger scumbag piece of trash.
Right, all I'm saying is you are half of the face of Screams After Midnight. That means you at least half endorse every single tweet that goes out from that account.
Look, just because Tim has access to the Screams After the Midnight Twitter and sometimes posts the most outrageous shit on it, don't come to me with the slander that I feel anything towards The Boy other than utter apathy and ill-content with. Okay?
Ill-content, I mean, that implies a feeling that is not apathy. So
it varies between the two. It's like it would just be apathy, but
Tim has made you hate it.
It's been forced down my throat so much that I have to hate it a little bit. So, to hell with it. To hell with The Boy.
Sounds like more you hate Tim rather than hate The Boy.
I don't hate Tim, but I hate a lot for what he stands for.
Yeah.
The Boy.
His ideology.
The Leprechaun. The Rumpelstiltskin.
Any others?
Anything with goats in it.
It's very wide-ranging.
I kid. All right, next up, Amazon Studios has won the rights to adapt Q-Code sci-fi podcast series. It's called From Now. So they're developing a TV show. Golden Globe winners. Oh, Prestige. Prestige. Yeah. Richard Madden and Brian Cox are going to serve as executive producers. Interesting Scottish duo there, I guess. But
and just producers?
It just says producers. Oh, they're also starring. But the opening thing doesn't say that.
That seems like a weird.
It doesn't say, because later on it says they will play blah blah blah. Okay, so they're clearly in it. But the first paragraph only just says they're executive producers.
That is true. Like you would say also executive producers,
yes,
right? You'd think them being the starring actors would be the part of your story that you want people to know. That
would be the footnote. No, admittedly, maybe the title says it. They're in it. No, even the title. This is the headline. This is the headline for the article on Deadline. Amazon lines up TV adaptation of sci-fi podcast From Now with Richard Madden and Brian Cox aboard as executive producers. That doesn't even imply they're in it. Doesn't even imply it.
This is bizarre. What a strange way of putting this story out.
But then when you get to the thing, it
just casually. Oh, these are the characters they're playing.
Oh dear. Oh wait, hold on. This gets a little bit thicker actually. Actually, maybe they may not be in it, but there's a reason. There's a reason why I read it.
I wonder if they're on the podcast.
They play the characters in the podcast, so they might not be in the TV show. Okay.
Things are becoming clearer.
Yes. So the podcast series, which stars the two of them, debuted in 2020 December, and peaked at number 2 overall in Apple Podcast charts. And there's a lot of podcasts on there. We ought to know. Number 2, good for them, I guess. Madden and Cox play identical twin brothers separated by time. I was going to say there's a bit of an age difference between the two of them. The story chronicles the aftermath of their historic reunion when astronaut Edward Fitz from S.H.I.E.L.D., another Scottish person. How many Scottish people we get in this thing? I'm joking. Edward Fitz, played by Madden, his spacecraft suddenly reappears in Earth's orbit after having gone missing 35 years earlier, and Edward emerges looking at the exact same age as when he left. So, I'm intrigued. Okay, so his twin obviously has aged 35 years in that time.
That actually roughly lines up, give or take.
And that's why you have to have two actors with the same accent and are close enough anyway. So that's cool. I would kind of hope they end up actually starring in it.
I think they'd be a really solid, interesting, pairing on screen. And I know, like Madden doesn't always use his Scottish accent. Like, it's very depending on what he's in.
I'm going to be very upset if this gets made and we have two Americans and it's two American characters all of a sudden. Like, how dare you?
Is that how it feels when ginger characters just are suddenly not ginger anymore?
I'll feel even worse if it's two English actors.
So I don't know if you mentioned. I assume you did on the news previously, but the Red Sonja casting. It's like another redhead gone.
I don't think I did actually. I don't recall this.
It's what's her name? She was in Ant-Man and she was the villain in the second Ant-Man movie.
Oh, the villain. Oh, from Killjoys.
Yes, her.
Her, yeah, I know her. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she's playing Red Sonja.
She's good.
She's a very good actress. I like her. But god damn it, every single ginger. Not one of them is ginger anymore. Not one.
Oh well. What do you want from me? So, do you know what? This is the second Scottish character in fiction I've seen with the name Fitz. Is Fitz a Scottish name? Because I have never heard of it before. I've heard of Fritz and Fitzgerald, or but never Fitz.
I've never heard it either. But
and all of a sudden, and now this is the second Scottish character that I've seen with the last name Fitz. It's just weird. The premise sounds cool. I am definitely into the idea. The podcaster was created by Reese Wakefield, who starred in season 3 of True Detective. Okay, that's a weird place, but fair enough. If that's who's behind it, that's who's behind it. So they're executive producing, which would imply that they're not going to be in it, which is kind of a shame because I think that's a very interesting pairing of actors. But hey ho. I mean. Oh, Brian Cox is getting pretty old, though. Maybe he's not up for actually moving around and doing stuff like that anymore. Maybe he did the podcast because he got to sit and just say it into a mic. now he has to get up and move around. No, let someone else do it.
That's possible. I was actually just looking up the origins of Fitz because it was interesting to me.
Oh,
it's Anglo-Norman, and it basically you put it before another name because it means son of. So you know how in like now you'd say like oh something as short for of whatever. Fitz is generally used like that, so it's not usually used on its own. It would be Fitz, Fitzpatrick, Fitzgerald, something like that. But interestingly, English moved away from it, but I guess it stuck a bit more around in Scotland. I don't know.
But there's nothing after it though. These are examples where it's just Fitz, so it's just son of.
Yeah. That's a strange choice. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I'm disappointed that we were saying the examples for O'Connell for of Connell. You didn't say Offred after it.
Look, you may have just watched Handmaid's Tale, so it's fresh for you. I forgot. I'll be honest.
I don't know. It was just the first thing that popped in my head when you said that means of. So I'm like, oh, so like the Handmaid's then is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Next up, Kiefer Sutherland is going to play a private spy in a new TV show. Definitely returning to his wheelhouse here. So it's an untitled espionage drama that has been ordered by Paramount Plus. It comes from John Requa and Glenn Ficarra, who will direct the pilot. Who did direct the pilot? Oh, who will direct it probably, but he directed the pilot of This Is Us as kind of like maybe his more notable work. So the series stars Sutherland as a private espionage operative, James Weir. It's always a J name. It's always a Jim or a John or a James or a Jack. It's always one of those. Who finds himself in the midst of a battle over the preservation of democracy. In a world at odds with misinformation, behavioral manipulation, the surveillance state, and the interests that control these extraordinary powers. 8-episode season. That was so dull sounding, quite frankly.
Even I feel like that was fairly dull sounding, and I like spy stuff.
Yeah, I'm not super pumped, I have to admit. Next up, Apple TV is giving a 10-episode order to Hello Tomorrow, a half-hour dramedy headlined by Billy Crudup. Crudup? How do you say his last name? I don't know. But
no, yeah, I know who he is, but I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Who will serve as executive producer as well. See, that's how you rate that.
I mean, to be fair, we did establish.
Technically, they were right, but I feel like you start with the reason why they're doing this is because a podcast that they are on, they are now going to executive produce the...
Would we then be accusing them of burying the lead?
No. No. Because that's the hook.
I mean, maybe.
That's the hook. The sci-fi podcast starring these two has been adapted. They're going to produce the new version of it. There you go. That's your headline, more or less.
Sure.
You know. Anyway, so the series is directed by Jonathan Entwistle, who is behind The End of the Effing World, which I know people liked. Hello Tomorrow is created and written by Amit Bala and Lucas Jansen from Bloodline and The Money. Hello Tomorrow is set in a retro future world. It centers around a group of traveling salesmen hawking lunar timeshares. Crudup stars as Jack, a salesman of great talent and ambition, whose unshakable faith in a brighter tomorrow inspires his co-workers, revitalizes his desperate customers, but threatens to leave him dangerously lost in the very dream that sustains him. So
okay, sounds kind of fun.
I'm getting a little bit of a almost like Fallout satire sort of tone from this futuristic salesman vibe. I can
buy it. Yeah,
and it said half-hour dramedy, so I can see it going down that kind of path.
It sounds appropriate for that description.
Yeah, so that's cool. Next up, Scott Steindorf and Dylan Russell's Stone Village have picked up the film and television rights to Paul Theroux's latest novel, Under the Wave at Waimea, if I'm saying that remotely correctly. I'm not familiar with this location. But this is the same writer who did The Mosquito Coast, which is just getting an adaptation, or just about to. The synopsis: set in the lush, gritty underside of the island paradise readers rarely see, Under the Wave at Waimea offers a dramatic, affecting commentary on privilege, mortality, and the lives we choose to remember. The story is about a big wave surfer named Joe Sharkey, who is past his prime and is losing his stoke. And that's in inverted commas. So it's clearly a slang term. I have no idea what it is. His mojo, I guess?
Yeah, you will get Matt to translate for us. It sounds like surfer shit.
Yeah. Joe learned to surf with Eddie Aiku and the thrill seek with Hunter Thompson as he chased the perfect wave around the world. The younger surfers around the breaks on the north shore of Oahu. So this is in Hawaii, I assume.
I would assume so with a name like
that. Well, Oahu is, but I'm saying...
Yeah.
The other, the title.
How's it spelled?
Waimea. Waimea.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm struggling to visualize that one.
Yeah. So, so they still idolize the shark, which I guess is his nickname because his name's Sharky. Convenient.
Obviously, yeah.
But his sponsors are looking elsewhere. So, when one night, while driving home from a bar after one too many, Joe accidentally kills a stranger near Waimea. The tragedy sends his life out of control. As the repercussions of the accident spiral ever wider, Joe's voracious girlfriend Olive throws herself into uncovering the dead man's identity and helping Joe find the vitality and refuge in the waves again. A lot of setup there about who the character is before they tell us what the inciting incident is, which I kind of appreciate because at least it builds a sense. Because if you're going to do like a sort of straight drama mystery, like this seems to be ultimately, giving me a sense of like, okay, the setting, what they're going to be playing with visually.
I think if it wasn't for all the surfer dude shtick, I'd be going, this sounds incredibly generic. If you just gave me the core plot premise part.
that was the flavor. You need that part to sell you. I mean, you might still not be interested in this, but at the very least, you can get a better sense of it. I think with all that,
definitely.
So, with good direction, good writing. I mean, it could totally work out. No, like destination for this shit. They're adapting it as a quote unquote premium television series, so could end up
these
in
days. That could be pretty much anywhere.
Any cable or streaming place, really. So there you go. That's that. Next up, Entertainment One has acquired the US rights to Adam Silvera's novel "They Both Die at the End," which is currently number 1 in the New York Times young adult paperback bestsellers. Which I've
heard of this, which is yeah.
I didn't realize there were so many specific categories for the bestsellers.
Oh yeah. Everyone gets to be a bestseller if they really want.
If they just make sure they hit the right category. Yeah. So this was published in September 2017, and it was originally in development at HBO as a series, but that fell through. That was with Bad Robot with J.J. Abrams.
Maybe that's why it sounds familiar, and I've heard of this before, is that we've spoken about this before.
But yeah, Entertainment One are developing it now. And again, where's it going to go ultimately, network or streaming service wise? That remains to be seen. But it could end up back at HBO for all we know. I mean, maybe they might pick it up once it's been developed.
It's less likely, but not impossible.
Yeah. So They Both Die at the End is a devastating yet uplifting story about two people whose lives change over the course of one unforgettable day. I always love a story set in one day or night. I'm a sucker.
Probably said that last time as well.
I'm a sucker for this. According to the book, I mean, it's young adult though, so I mean that's a bit of a It's fighting an uphill battle from there. According to the book synopsis, on September 5th, a little after midnight, Death Cast calls Mateo Torres and Rufus Ematero to give them some bad news. They're going to die today. Mateo and Rufus are total strangers, but for different reasons, they're both looking to make a new friend on their end day. The good news, there's an app for that. It's called The Last Friend, and through it, Rufus and Mateo are about to meet up for one last great adventure to live a lifetime in a single day.
Do you know what? If the tone is anything like, there's an app for that, I could be interested in this. Because that was just in there enough, like this little barb, this witty comment of playing on standard expectations and phrases that I'm like, okay, maybe there's something in this.
Yeah, do you also had an app for that? The movie Countdown, the horror film, but counting down to their death. That was an app movie.
But I'm not saying everything that's an app is good.
Just gonna put that there. Next up, we have a debut novel by Beth Cowan Erskine, which has been developed as a TV show. It's called Lockdown Abbey. It's a play on words, you see. You get Downton Abbey.
I got it, yeah.
And it's not lock as in lockdown, but lock as in Loch Ness. Just to everyone paint a picture to see what I'm saying here.
I know I could hear you say it differently. I don't know how much our American audience will have noticed that.
So, the developing a series here. Nat Geo's Genius and 21 Bridges are the ones developing it. The book, which was published by Hodder and Slaughton Hatchet last month, is centered on the delightfully selfish and out-of-step Inverkillen family. The trouble starts when Lord Inverkillen is found dead in mysterious circumstances after making a disastrous deal to sell off the family's only asset, the whiskey distillery. Oh, Connor's in. There's whiskey involved.
Look, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm interested.
The inspector declares it an accident, but Mrs. McBain, I love that name. McBain. It's like Scottish. It's like Bane from Batman, but Scottish. McBain. That's a Big Mac. That's what that is.
All I'm saying is, this sounds a little bit too Scottish.
Mrs. McBain, the savvy head housekeeper, isn't so convinced. No one is allowed in or out of the abbey because of a mysterious illness sweeping the country. So there is kind of like a pandemic double meaning going on here.
Yeah. So there is a lockdown.
So the residents of the house, both upstairs and downstairs, are the only suspects. The desperate state of the family's finances are revealed to the family without quick intervention. It's likely the estate will have to be sold to cover the debts, leaving them homeless. Most of the Inverkillens have left the estate in decades and are best doing what can only be described as nothing. with the service increasingly out of commission because of the mysterious virus. Mrs. McBain tries to keep everything normal while also conducting her own clever investigation of Lord Inverkillen's death, and in doing so, uncovers the whole host of long-hidden secrets, lies, and betrayals that will alter the dynamics of the household forever.
Do you know what I'm imagining this to be?
Yes.
This is Scottish Knives Out meets Downton Abbey.
That's kind of what it's describing, and if it's closer to Knives Out, I might be into it.
Yeah.
I might get into it.
That is what it sounds like.
It's funny because I read the name Beth Cohen Erskine, and I said Erskine, how the place Erskine is pronounced, because I'll just go with that because I know how to pronounce that. But now that as it went on and it got more and more Scottish, I went, oh well, it probably just does.
Probably is that. I mean, how else do you pronounce it?
I don't know. But I don't know. It's not a name I see very often. I mean, the title Lockdown Abbey kind of also gave me a hint, but lots of people write things about the Loch Ness Monster. They don't always come from Scotland.
That's fair, but that sounded particularly Scottish.
So, yeah. So while I complained about something about the pandemic earlier, I don't mind them having a play on words, because it's not the current pandemic. At least I don't think. I mean, maybe if it is, then it's that. If it is, it's just a backdrop, and the story's not about that, so it's not a big deal. It's just a reason why everyone's trapped there.
Yeah,
effectively,
basically,
and that's fine.
It's
but
basically what you're saying is they used a pun, so you're gonna let it slide.
It's a good pun. It's a double pun.
It's not the worst.
It's a pun for both the Lockdown and also Downton Abbey. It's like two puns wrapped into one title. It's gold. That's what it is.
Yeah. So someone spent many an hour coming up with that.
Well, what's funny is that for a long time before I properly paid attention, I thought it was called Downtown Abbey. That's what I thought it was called.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then one day I just sort of looked at the word and went, oh, well, that's not downtown. So it's just kind of funny to me that the pun here relies upon, turning it into kind of downtown to make it work. Yeah. But it's fine.
Here's my question.
Yes.
Do you think they spent hours coming up with that title? Or did they come up with a title and went, right, now I need to create an entire story for that one title?
I think it's even better if it was that way around. I think
there's a reasonable possibility that they came up with that title and went, I need to use this.
Right, we have to have a story at a Scottish mansion where there's a murder and they're all trapped there because of lockdown, and then just go from there.
Yeah.
Like that's basically it. Yeah. Because that's the thing. That's a sort of it's like a writing exercise where, okay, you've got these basic things. There has to be a mansion, there has to be a murder, and they have to be trapped there because of lockdown. That's actually kind of a fun writing exercise. Okay, how do I turn that into a compelling story? Because it's not so specific that you have to mangle a bunch of shit. You're kind of free to do a lot of things with that.
You can tell whatever story you want still.
Yeah. So, yes. And then when we watch it, we're going to discover it's actually the Scottish version of oh god, I forgot the title of the movie. The Korean film from last year.
Parasite?
Parasite. It's going to be the Scottish version of Parasite.
Oh my god. If it turns out to be that, I would love it even more. If we're like, it's Downton Abbey meets Knives Out, and then it's like, but actually it comes in, it's Parasite all along. This would become the best TV show of whatever year it comes out in.
Just imagine 10 episodes of this thing. It's never going to live up to what we've imagined now, though.
Never. It's going to be terrible.
That's the problem. I'll give it a fair chance, though, when it eventually appears.
Do we know where that's coming from, or is it just...
It's in development, yeah.
Okay.
One of those ones where there's production companies, but no network or anything like that.
Okay.
So, alright. Final story.
We couldn't have ended on that one.
I didn't read them enough to know that was the one worth ending on.
But this has got a lot to live up to now.
Well, it's because I always put the regular network dramas at the end. So, and that's what this is. It's a Fox order.
Oh, okay.
Fox have ordered The Cleaning Lady, which is an adaptation of the Argentinian drama starring, and this is not the Argentinian one, this is the new version starring Elodie Young from Daredevil and Defenders, Elektra.
Yes.
So, yeah, hour-long drama, 10-episode order, which is interesting from Fox that they're doing a 10-episode order. But, the 100 writer, Miranda Kwok.
People really like the 100.
and Supergirl executive producer Melissa Carter is show running. So, you know, people behind it. The cleaning lady, wait,
you either?
Is Elodie Young in this version, or is she in the original version?
I don't know.
I'm confused now. Oh no! Wait, no, she isn't this. She isn't this. I confused myself. I was having a brain fart. Okay, the cleaning lady stars Young as Thony. It's like Tony with an H. Maybe the H is silent.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a silent H?
No.
No, Thony. Okay, she's Thony. A whip-smart doctor who comes to the US for a medical treatment to save her ailing son. Because I was starting to wonder, like, does she like does she speak more languages than I expect? I mean, she might. I don't know, but no, she isn't this. I was just having a brain fart. I was mixing my brain was mixing two words up, and I thought it said it stars Thony as Young, and I was like, wait, what? So
yeah,
maybe.
Well, apparently she's French, so she probably speaks French as well. I don't know.
I assume she does speak French. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But when the system fails, and pushes her into hiding, she refuses to be beaten down and marginalized. Instead, she becomes a cleaning lady for the mob and starts playing the game by her own rules. So, yeah. So it's kind of a, I don't want to say Breaking Bad, but it's kind of that, like, going into the illegal version of
Breaking Bad if she were Mike.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, so become I don't know. It's fine. There's a photo of her wearing some, like, you know, rubber gloves with blood on them.
I feel like this is a lot less interesting because it's a Fox show.
Oh, absolutely. This is the sort of thing where this is going to be the network version of, like, a lot of other better shows potentially.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But there you go. That's the cleaning lady, and we're done. An hour and 40 later. So thank you very much for joining us. You can let us know what you thought of any of those news items in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. It does help us out if you do that. YouTube will pimp us out a little bit more, so please do. You can also support us by going over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and giving us as little as $1 per month and getting some bonuses for your trouble, so please do that if you want to help keep all the content coming. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, keep watching movies. And I don't have an outro line for this yet properly, so I shall simply say, lock it down.